I'm going to think about the other person first. I'm going to put their needs above my own. What matters to them? That's how you make a sermon, right? So I just apply that to sales outreach. I'm not saying it's 100% or it always works. It just means that I can bring a different perspective than most people. And candidly, most sales training is not based on empathy and compassion. And I mean, it's a lot about listening. But how do you train somebody to listen? It's very difficult.
Welcome to the Know Your Ship podcast, presented by eHub. I'm your host, Frank Dolce. This is the one and only Adam Peek. P-E-E.
That's true.
K.
Like peekaboo.
Yeah, not like a peak, a mountaintop.
No, which when I grew up in front of Pikes Peak, I got a lot of people who were like, oh, like Pikes Peak.
Are you related? Did they say that?
To Zebulon Peak? No, Zebulon Pike? I'm not. Peak is not the name. It's just like the description of the top of the mountain, I believe. Just a little, just so you know.
Just a little, housekeeping there.
Yeah.
Well, if you grew up across the street from Pikes Peak,
I mean, I could see it from my house.
Then that means you grew up in Colorado Springs.
It's true.
Near the Air Force Academy.
Right by it. In Monument, technically. Colorado.
Yeah. Did you... Okay, I have two questions about that.
Okay.
Are you from a military family?
No. I mean, we pay taxes so that we're like investors, but...
No one grows up in Colorado Springs if they're not in a military family.
Apparently, you've met the one.
The Peaks are the only... Okay, so no military.
No.
And have you ever done the rail trail? Do you know
Have I taken the rail?
No, so it's in the Red Rock area, Colorado Springs, and it's called the Incline.
Oh, yeah.
You've done the Incline.
All the time.
I've done
it many, many times.
Okay, so I've done the Incline.
Yeah.
I did the Incline one time.
It's a 1 mile hike.
It's almost a 1 mile hike. It feels like
it's 2,000 feet of elevation.
1,000 miles.
Yeah, it's tough.
I started out kind of like I was like, I'm just gonna jog up it. I started out jogging.
You were jogging? Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it didn't last very long. And
you should have called me before you did that. I would have told you that's a bad idea, bro.
That's where the U.S. Olympic wrestling team trains on the Incline, and you just their only rule is you can't stop, you can't take a rest, so you have to go up it straight up it. And then there's a guy that has done it several times. He's done it twice back to back, and he set some world record like 14, 15 minutes to go up that thing, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, there's people there that do it almost every day. And even like little kids, like they'll be like teenagers. So I would be going up it and I felt like I was pretty, in shape.
Yeah. And
I'm sweating and like some like 12-year-old girl just sort of like scampers on by you just because her family goes to the Incline. Like it's a whole thing. I mean, it's a fun hike back down because you don't go down. You go down the trail, the bar.
Very
trail.
nice.
It's a nice hike.
It is.
But it's tough. I mean,
going up, it's rough.
Yeah, it's walking upstairs for a mile straight.
Big.
Yeah,
and they're inconsistent. These steps, anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a cool. I like the Incline.
The Incline's fantastic. What kind of name is Peak? P-E-E-K.
So let me tell you what happened in my life. I was told by my grandfather that he was Polish. So he would tell us all, like he would like speak random Polish words when I was growing up. And he'd make us kielbasa and do all that stuff.
Very Polish.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I guess my family's Polish. Well, then I did one of those tests.
Like the 23andMe?
Yeah. And it was like, not Polish. And I'm like, well, what? I'm just basically some sort of like European mutt.
Do you think?
I just think he liked Polish food. I don't know where it came from.
I was going to say, but nothing against Grandpa Peak,
Yeah.
but would you pick Polish as your nationality? Like, if
I don't think he picked it. I think this was the era of non-information, like the early 1900s. We didn't exactly have 23andMe and Google and all these, although I think 23andMe is bankrupt now, so we'll go with Ancestry.
yeah, let's do that.
We didn't have all this. So he probably was told, we're Polish. And he was like, I guess we're Polish. You can't fact check it. And then, mom or sister or whatever just starts making Polish food. That's how things happen. This is why so many people thought they were Native American until the test came out. They're like, I'm definitely an eighth. Everyone was like an eighth Native American until they had to do the test. And it's like,
Until they figured out that they weren't.
you are not the father. Like, oh, it's just a giant Maury Povich show.
I'm never going to do it. I mean, because I've been told what our genealogy is, and I don't want it to change. I like it. And I'm afraid that if I take the tests, it's going to tell me something completely different.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss. I guess.
So I'm just going to stick with it. And like you said, I mean, it's just you kind of adopt it. You think you're Polish. You start cooking the food. You learn a few random Polish words.
I know. I don't even remember them.
Yeah.
And then you're not Polish, which is like most people that I don't know. It was just a weird thing. So I think I'm more British and Irish than anything, but it was just there was a little bit of Polish mixed in with some random Eastern European, and I don't know. It's just
You're a mutt.
Just an American mutt.
Yeah. We're all mutts. It's just an interesting thing. I was wondering if it was short for something.
I was told it was short for a Polish last name, and I'm pretty sure that was also not true. Like some name that ended with SKI, but I don't. He's like, no, it got shortened, and I'm like, no one seems to be able to verify this.
Probably. Okay, so you grow up in lovely Colorado Springs, a non-military family. How'd you guys end up in Colorado Springs?
My dad was working for this, kind of sketchy startup named Intel. If you've heard of it before.
Oh my gosh. Are they still around?
Yeah, I think
Are they even still around?
I think they're still around. He was an engineer, and so I was born in San Jose, and my mom wanted to not live in San Jose and raise a family, so they found Colorado Springs and moved there in 1982. I want to say they moved to Colorado Springs. And then John Elway followed from Stanford to Denver. So I think they just were trying to follow John Elway, I think is really what it was.
Yeah. Why not?
I don't know. So that's how they ended up there. He started selling semiconductor test equipment from Colorado Springs, I guess.
No longer with Intel.
No, he left Intel.
You left Intel to move to Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
Still but in the semiconductor industry.
The semiconductor industry.
Okay.
Or the mob. I'm still not quite sure what he does or what he did.
Did he ever say he did import-export? Like,
I'm an import-export consultant, son. Don't ask any questions. I'm in freight.
Yeah, I work down at the docks.
Yeah. No, he never, that would be a bad place to be.
Yeah. Well, was it a happy childhood?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my parents still live in the same house that I grew up in.
Really?
Yep. So they're still there 40 plus years later. And I have two sisters that are twins that are younger than me. My wife and I went to the same elementary school, the same middle school, the same high school, the same college. So yeah, I look back on my childhood and...
Say that again? Your wife?
My wife and I...
You went to the same elementary school?
Middle school, high school, college.
And to Colorado State University. Wait.
The Colorado State University. The Harvard
Rams.
The Harvard of the Rockies. Go Rams.
How many schools conservatively call themselves the Harvard of the Rockies?
I've never heard of anybody else. I mean, other than SUU, which is obviously the second Harvard of the Rockies. Go T-Birds. I don't know. I don't have any affiliation with Southern Utah University. I just feel like it's sweet in here because I moved here and it was like, I got to pick a team, I guess. I have to be, it's either like the Y or the U. Do I say the Y or is it just BYU and the U? How does that work?
Yeah, I think people who have an affinity for BYU call it the Y.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. But I just decided to pick. I was like, what about Weber State or Southern Utah? Those are my teams.
So are those your two teams in Utah?
That's who I'll cheer for. Yeah.
Oh, you have no affiliation with the Y or with the U.
No. Other than I do have. I think I'm the only person who still has this. It's a Russian nesting doll set. Do you remember those? Like,
oh yeah,
but it's Andre Miller in a Denver Nuggets jersey, and so I still have that. That's my like only piece of like University of Utah related
sort of
paraphernalia.
Yeah. So were you in Colorado Springs when Andre Miller was playing with the Nuggets?
Yeah, that would have been. I was in Colorado when he was, because he was here in 98, I think. And then he played for the Clippers, and he played for the Timberwolves and the Trailblazers, and he
had
all over.
An unbelievably long career in the NBA.
Deservedly so. He's one of the most underrated point guards of all time.
Isn't that the truth?
If you ask me.
Dead ringer for Richard Pryor.
And he has the highest voice. Have you heard? He talks like the voice does not match. Like whenever I hear him talk, I'm just like, wow. But he would show up at like the YMCA in Denver, and he would just hoop. Like,
he just loved basketball.
He just loves basketball.
He just loved it.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed. I was actually kind of hoping that he would be he would be coaching at the University of Utah this year. And when that didn't happen, I was kind of like, that sort of seemed like a miss.
Yeah, a little bit. Who knows? You never know. Maybe he'll land there someday. Okay, so
are we going to start?
Your wife? We have.
Oh,
we have started. I introduced you, and then I started asking about where you grew up.
I know.
This is the way this podcast works. I mean, we're going to get to your fascinating packaging life.
That's all I ever want to talk about. I mean, I'm tired of talking about Poland.
The preacher of I loved the Poland stuff. That we're gonna make so many good clips out of that.
Oh, great.
Like that's gonna
sorry,
be
Pap.
That's gonna be so great. And the Pikes Peak thing. I mean, there's another good.
Yeah.
But I just want people to know about you a little bit more before we get into.
Let's do it.
What you are.
Ask me any question
today. What did you study at Colorado State University with your future wife? Were you married at Colorado State?
No.
Okay.
My wife, we've been married now for, 22 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We
five
kids, one wife.
I know. I love when you say that. Do you say that because you live in Utah now and people ask you?
Just got to clarify. Because people are like, wow, 5 kids in Utah. And I'm like, I just have the one wife.
Just one wife.
No, we were married when I graduated from college, and she was a senior at Colorado State. But we didn't start dating till I was in college. I asked her to prom
in high school.
Turned down. Like she was my high school crush. Never reciprocated. She did not want to date me in high school.
Why was that?
I think it was I just got more attractive when I got to college. Yeah, it had nothing to do with that.
What were you into in high school? What did you do? Were you an athlete?
Yeah. So I played basketball. I played tennis. I played some baseball. I was the nice way of putting it would be like I was really full of myself in high school. I thought I was
very confident.
It was a very big deal.
Yeah.
My letter jacket was super important. And then I went to college at the Colorado State University, the Harvard of the Rockies, and I realized I'm not a big deal. Like I'm at this massive university now. Nobody cares about. Like it was a bit of an identity crisis.
That you averaged 4.3 per game.
I think I averaged about 7 and 5 my senior year. I was leading the state for a little bit in assists.
With 5 assists per game.
Yeah, it wasn't a time. Remember, this was like the Patrick Ewing era. Like post, like you just get the ball down to the post players. There wasn't a lot of ball movement back then.
Yeah.
But I didn't end up leading it. But I was averaging 6 or 7 assists per game for a while. And it was like, you're the number one in the state.
Yeah, you were a big deal for a while. That wasn't attractive enough for your...
No, because she did not want to date the arrogant, student body president. She wanted somebody who was like humble and kind. It was weird.
I've never read an article on dating when that's come up. Like, be humble and kind of.
Yeah. So I go to Colorado State, and I'm like, I'm not that. I have a bit of a like weird identity. Most people go to college, and it's like they just want to party and like tear it up. I went the exact opposite in my thing. I was like sitting in my dorm room, just like reading my Bible every day. And I was just like, I'm going to become a pastor, and I'm going to go just travel around the world, and I'm going to teach people about the Bible. That's what I'm going to do. I can never get married because that would be a disaster for my spouse. And through this process, ended up becoming the type of man that my now wife actually wanted to be with. But I wasn't trying to change for her. Piece of dating and marriage advice. Don't try to change for the other person. I was just becoming the type of person that she wanted without knowing that was going to happen. So that's what happened to me. That was my freshman year of college. I ended up like pastoring a accidental church. I was 18, and we were just meeting. I was leading a Bible study, and all of a sudden, like,
did you organize it, or did you just?
It was me and my buddy Gary. Gary and I, we played basketball together. Gary was 29. He was from Kentucky. He found out that I like to teach the Bible. He's like, "You want to come to my apartment, and we'll invite some of my friends?" I was like, "Sure." So I was like 18. We had people ages mid 40s on down to college students, and I would just.
And
I was the guy. I was just like, okay, guess what we're going to do.
What were you teaching?
The Bible.
Like, did you teach like sequentially? Like, did you go
we just
Old
pick a book,
Testament, New Testament, or you just pick
one book and then go through that book and be like, what are we going to talk about next?
Oh, gotcha.
It's not a sequential book. It's a very, is this the Bible podcast? We can get into it.
Yeah.
It's,
well, I mean, it's all
actually
in the name.
It's organized.
Know your ship. That means like if you know your ship, that you might know something about the Bible.
Yeah. So it's organized by literary genre. So it's 5 books of the law, 12 books of history, 5 books of poetry, 5 what are called major prophets, 12 minor prophets, 4 gospels, 1 book of history, 21 letters, and then 1 book of prophecy. So it's not actually written like a sequential book. There's like the most bizarre story, though, in the Bible with Solomon, where they're like arguing over a baby. And he's like, what if we split the baby in 2? And everyone's like, you're so wise. And I'm like, that sounds like horrible advice. Like, there's no way. Anyway, different time, I guess.
You failed to see the wisdom. Clearly.
There's a lot of funny moments in the Bible that
funny moments,
very funny.
Like, there's extraordinary. I'm going to use the word extraordinary. I was going to say crazy, but I'm going to use the word extraordinary moments in the Bible, and like going back to how the earth was populated, and relations between
I know
it, right? Wouldn't you call that extraordinary?
I know I call it weird. It's fine. Like there's one where David goes to propose. Speaking of his wife, he's going to go propose to Saul's daughter, whose name is Michal. And for some reason, David has to bring 100 foreskins of the Philistines, right?
Yeah.
But David decides to go he goes the extra mile. And he's like, I'm going to bring 200
That's
foreskins.
What he is.
That is a crazy, to me, it's just like, bro, just do the 100, get the C- and get the girl. Like, why you gotta go? Because it's not easy, I would imagine, to circumcise another person. Just be like, that's just not. This is why I'm no longer a pastor, by the way.
At what point does it become easy? I mean, you're talking about 200. Do you
200 dudes,
like 20 in? Are you like, oh wait, I got this? Then you're just like, it's like a Henry Ford factory. It's like a production line.
Just
boom, 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 boom. Just not.
No, I don't think. I think it was a pretty terrible process back then to circumcise somebody. This is like the great internet question: could 100 men take down 1 gorilla? It's like, could 1 man circumcise 200 men?
Clearly,
I don't know, but apparently it happened, and he got the girl.
Where? Okay, so
how are you going to?
I love this podcast not only because I host it but because of this story right here. Like this story about how you became a better man, not because of some like I want to date this particular person, so I have to become you became a better man because that was what you felt like you needed to do. Like that was your personal journey, and in that journey, you just became someone who became more attracted to the person that you wanted to date in the first place.
Yeah, she's the hottest woman in the world, and so it's pretty great that I get to still be married to the most attractive woman in the world, which is great for me.
Why did you?
That's why I have 5 kids.
Did you grow? Was Bible study prevalent in your household growing up?
Not. We went to church, like we went to a Christian church growing up, and I went to Christian youth group. But that process kind of made me into a bit of a narcissist, I guess, in a weird way. It was part of it, right? A lot of it was just like being a big fish in a small community can do that to somebody. So it was actually sort of a disconnection from that made me go like, maybe there's something to that beyond just like a place to go hang out with my friends. And so certainly the foundation there. My mom is a tremendous woman of faith. She still probably, shout out to Lydia, she probably still prays for me every single day.
My grandmother's name, Lydia. But she wasn't Polish. She was Russian.
Oh, I was like, are we related then?
We're probably.
Probably somewhere, going all the way back to like, how did we all get here? And my dad became a Christian later on in his life, and has just been I talked with him today before I walked into the building. I was having a conversation. So nice. Still really close with my parents. So yeah, there was obviously a foundation there, but it was almost like it was kind of a supernatural thing for me to just be like, I want to know more about this book. So there's something in this
yearning.
book. Like I was literally, my parents had to call me and they were like, why are your grades slipping? And I'm like, you're never going to believe me. But I'm skipping class because I'm reading 1 Kings. And she's like, but you can also go to class. I'm like, I know, but the story is so crazy. I just couldn't stop.
Let me ask you this.
I did fix my grades, though.
What is a worse excuse for failing grades in college? What is the worst excuse between these two? Is it, my grades are terrible. I'm so sorry, Mom and Dad, because I completely lost focus and I'm enjoying the college life. Like I'm on my own for the first time. I'm partying with all my friends. I'm staying out late and I've let my studies slip. I'm sorry. Or, Mom and Dad, I feel terrible.
I did not feel terrible.
My grades have slipped because I'm immersed in the Bible.
Yeah, so one is more believable. I'll say that much. Definitely more believable, the first one. But it was 100% true. And so I did have to make sure I went to class.
So you got your grades up.
I did.
Good for you. You prayed about it.
Yeah.
Went to class.
Yeah, I figured out how to hack into the grade book, and no, I did not do that. That's cheating. Don't do that.
That has to be the most interesting excuse for failing grades of all time.
No, they weren't failing. I was a good student in high school.
Let's make the story better.
Okay.
Failing grades.
Fine. Failing by my standards.
Yes. Very good. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
I love it. That's a great story. This led you down so you were amateur pastor as well for your group of buddies. Was the 29-year-old Gary in school? He was in school there. Mm-hmm. He was like Tommy Boy. He just never,
no,
he just didn't graduate.
Gary had a really cool story. He's a phenomenal basketball player. We met playing in the rec center, from Kentucky, had gone to college, got heavily involved in drinking and drank his way out of college. So
the more traditional route, not Bible study, the more traditional college.
And had gotten his life back together, was just looking to just reapplying to different places, and ended up at Colorado State University. And so we met we met playing basketball, and he was like a 5'10" dude wearing like cut off jeans, just killing everybody on the basketball court. He'd
That guy.
wear a Garth Brooks shirt and just couldn't miss. I mean, I one time was shooting around with him. I think he made 40 straight threes, just casually, just shooting. It was unbelievable.
Gary, or was it Larry Bird?
No, it was not Larry Bird.
Wow.
I know. It's Gary Bird.
When you said,
His alter ego.
I love a Southern accent. I wish I could do one. I wish I could talk.
Try it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I can't do it. Every accent I do starts to sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Wow.
All of my...
We don't need to hear that. My mom was from the South, actually. And
Oh, great. Which part?
all over. She had a pretty remarkably crazy childhood. And part of her story involves, I hope I get all the details right, but she was living in just the remotest part of Arkansas, like the sticks, like had an outhouse kind of a situation. Very, very poor. And she had seen, this was right after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And she had seen pictures of the man, James Earl Ray, I think was his name, and he was on the run, and he showed up at her house.
What?
Because they were just out in the remote part, like on the run from the cops, asking for like an oil funnel or something like that. And so he left, and my mom went and called the FBI. She was like a teenager. Yeah.
Your mom was instrumental in the capture of the assassin.
Yep.
Wow.
I know.
That's an unbelievable story.
Yeah. And apparently she told it to my sisters like super early on, because I didn't hear it till like 2 years ago. And I was like, Mom, how did you never tell me? She's like, I swear I told you this. And I'm like, Mom, I would remember. I remember you telling me this story.
Implicated the assassin of Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
Great family story.
It's pretty good.
Okay. So now you're in school. What are you studying in college while you're part-time being a pastor?
Business management.
Business management. And at that point, did you decide that you wanted, like, that's your career path was going to be with the church? You were going to be a pastor? That was or...
I was thinking like maybe I'll be on a podcast at the E-Hub in Utah. That was my angle.
Listen, well,
but so this is the pinnacle of my life.
Shoot for the stars.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. So I was absolutely. That's what I was going to do. I was going to go become a pastor. My dad, in his infinite wisdom, was like, "Okay, but you're in school. Stay there. Finish your business degree. You can always use business wherever you go." And so I did that. I did later on in life. I went to. This is actually interesting. I was flying out here for work. So I'll fast forward a little bit. We can go back.
That's fine.
But this was part of my sales territory, and Utah was. And I was pastoring a church in Colorado Springs, and I was selling full time for packaging. And I was in seminary, which is like a master's level, like doctorate study, biblical studies kind of degree. And so I was talking to somebody out here, and I was like, I got to go back to they were like, oh, do you want to go grab dinner? I'm like, no, I got a big test in seminary. And they were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, why are you confused? They're like, why are you in seminary? And I'm like, what do you think seminary is? So I got a whole introduction.
You had the other type of seminary.
Yeah, I was same word, different applications.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So I did end up kind of pursuing a more formalized degree later on in life. But yeah, I graduated from Colorado State and immediately went into pastoral ministry. So I was a college and youth pastor.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And at that point, were you pastoring full time? And
yes,
that's how you made a living.
Yes.
Or
so
were you also in sales at that time?
No.
Gotcha.
I was never going to go into sales. That would be terrible. I got married to my wife right out of college. So we got married, and then I didn't actually go straight into. Now that I think about it, I was the overnight assistant manager at Walgreens for the back half of my college career. So I did that for a little bit, and then I went and worked for an organization called the Navigators, and I was a college pastor for them. And then my church hired me as the middle school and high school pastor. So I was making somewhere around $1,800 a month doing those two jobs. And my wife was a elementary school teacher. So that was how we sort of cobbled together a living.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Were you part of a specific denomination?
Sort of. Yeah. So I am ordained through the Southern Baptist denomination, but would pretty much call myself a non-denominational. I don't fit super neatly into like this, like whatever, Methodist or Baptist or Presbyterian or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So at what point in down this path did you decide, well, I'm not going to be a pastor full time anymore? Or what was the inflection point?
Yeah. So I mentioned that I have a very attractive wife, and so she became pregnant with our first child, who's now 18. And so she was like, I would love to stay home and raise our kid or children or whatever it was, whatever we ended up having. So we knew it was going to be human. We were pretty sure, but like we weren't sure how many kids we may have. We may have one, we may have 17. I have no idea. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, all right. Well, I'm doing math, and I'm like, I have to get a different job because we couldn't afford to live off of what I was making. Mm-hmm. So I went and worked at Starbucks. Mm-hmm. And so I was doing that and pastoring and it was a lot. I was, probably 60 to 70 hours a week just trying to put all this together. And then my Uncle Bob, needed some help at his packaging company in Carlsbad, California. And so he offered me a job
You're in Colorado.
I was in Fort Collins at the time.
Yep. Uncle Bob is in
San Diego, North County, San Diego,
Southern California, with a packaging company.
Yep.
And he
needed help.
He needed help. You needed a job.
Yep.
But you were passionate about being a pastor.
Correct. So we moved to San Diego. I was the general manager, so I learned a bunch about business. I learned everything but sales. I was never going to be in sales. That was not going to happen. And we lived there for about 3 years. It was awesome. Peak Packaging Solutions is still around. Bob's doing a great job building that company. But I got a call from a friend of mine. He wanted to start a church in Colorado Springs, and he wanted me to come do that. And so we moved back to Colorado.
You left the packaging company.
Yes. To go.
You're done. But now you're going to be back full-time pastor. Are you going to make more money at this point?
No. It was totally volunteer. So I had to find a job to supplement it. And I got a job selling packaging, not making a lot of money, by the way. It was tough sledding there for a little bit. So I was selling packaging and pastoring this church. And then probably the biggest inflection point in my career was we reached a point where the church was big enough that they could pay me we had already had one full-time pastor, paid pastor, and I could have gone on salary there. Mm-hmm. And I just had these moments where I was meeting with people, and I had like a week where I was like here in Utah and I was in Denver and I was meeting with a bunch of different people from all walks of life. And we were having just incredibly deep conversations. Start off talking about, labels and boxes, and end up talking about, their marriage or their struggles with something or other. And I was like, what is happening? And I'm telling my wife that, and she's like, maybe this is your pastoral field, is not like in the church full time, but out with, just hanging out with people and doing your job and meeting people from all different walks of life. And so that was my big inflection point where I was like, all right, I'm essentially an evangelist. That's what sales kind of is. Mm-hmm. An evangelist is like the bringer of good news. And so you're supposed to be like, hey, I got good news. We have this thing, whatever it is. And they're like, that's actually bad news. Go away. And you're like, okay, I guess you don't like it. But really, and I was having a conversation with somebody today about how like being a pastor actually really trained me for sales because I didn't have the traditional like background. So it was easy for me to make a cold call because I just hung up with somebody who's like their son was addicted to heroin and we were trying to figure out how to help him, or someone's marriage is falling apart or whatever it is. Like these are the conversations I'm having at night and on the evenings. So it's like, hey, you got to call someone at whatever pro bar. It's like, okay. I'm not going to have a harder conversation than like, oh, this person just died and we have to help plan their funeral with their widow. It's like, so being able to engage with people on the deepest and lowest parts of their life with empathy and compassion, and then being able to bring that into sales and having like honesty and integrity and creativity and empathy, all these things, I found sales to be actually a very natural place where I thought it was just like people like used car salesmen. Like that's what I just had always thought of. And I realized it wasn't that.
You don't have to be like that.
No. So I could still be a pastor, just not vocationally at the church.
So did you feel like you were selling when you were a pastor, or did you feel like being a pastor was just the best sales training you could get?
Definitely the latter. I never felt, because I wasn't paid by the church. So I could stand up and make circumcision jokes and people would be like, I'm leaving because you're talking about penises from the pulpit. And I'd be like, well, it's in the Bible. So
that's right.
And I guess if you got to go, you got to go. Like, I don't know. So no, I mean, it really prepared me for rejection because people have very serious thoughts, and especially with social media. And at the time, it was Facebook, and it was like 2012 to 2016 was a very it was kind of like the first time I feel like that people just got mad at each other because on social media. So trying to pastor people through that was interesting. And, so all of that really prepared me, I think, for selling, which was like, I have to prepare a sermon. I got to get up and stand in front of a couple hundred people once or twice a month. So I have to learn how to think through, like, how does somebody want to receive this message? That is something in sales that's very natural. It's like, I'm going to think about the other person first. I'm going to put their needs above my own. What matters to them? That's how you make a sermon, right? So I just apply that to sales outreach. I'm not saying it's 100% or it always works. It just means that I can bring a different perspective than most people. And candidly, most sales training is not based on empathy and compassion. And I mean, it's a lot about listening, but how do you train somebody to listen? It's very difficult.
So let's talk about your sales background now, and how what you did in your past as a pastor gave you the tools to succeed. And what are some of those things? You mentioned one. Well, you've mentioned a couple. One is managing rejection. Salespeople, they go through that every day.
Yes.
If you're in sales, you're managing rejection every single day. How do you manage it? How were you trained as a pastor to manage rejection? So
there's a verse in the Bible. It says you should be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so I realized that no was the second best result from any call. Like the first best was yes, but the second best was no. So I started to celebrate how quickly could I get to a no. So for example, when I was going to start coming to Utah for my job, I don't know how many people are going to be listening from Utah. This is just what was told to me, so I apologize. But somebody said to me, "Don't worry about traveling to Utah though, because you won't be able to sell anything there." And I was like, okay. They're like, we hired someone who was LDS and he couldn't succeed, so you won't. And I was like, well, that seems dumb. What does it matter where I worship on Sunday for labels? Like that seemed weird. So I just told people that. I came to Utah because I was trying to get to a no fast. And so I was like, hey, thanks so much for taking my meeting. I just want to let you know, there might be 3 reasons why. This is how I would start off almost every meeting. There might be 3 reasons why we could never work together, and I'm totally fine. You don't even have to tell me which one it is. Number 1 is I don't live here. And if you need somebody to be able to show up really quick, I'm going to have to get on a plane. Number 2 is we don't have a printing facility in Utah. Some people, they really like to be able to go on press checks and see their stuff run. We don't have that. And I just need to let you know. Number 3, and I would say, I think this is ridiculous, but this is just what was told to me, was I'm not part of the LDS church. And everyone would sort of laugh, understandably, because it's a ridiculous thing that people outside of Utah believe is actually true. It's not true, everybody. And they were like, I'm like, I know, but this is literally what people think and what I was told. And so I was trying to get to a no very fast. So I was trying to get rejected early because that was what I realized was going to create velocity in my sales, was if people could tell me no, then I didn't have to spend my time trying to chase them down. So I wanted to give them permission to say no very early. And the more that I would fight for I don't really know if we're a good fit for you because of this, because of that. And they would start to be like, no, you are a good fit because we see all of this stuff. And so it actually ended up accelerating my revenue numbers. So to me, I just sort of embraced rejection as the second best thing. So even like when I coach basketball, I would tell, kids would get down because they'd miss a shot. And I'd be like, that's the second best outcome from an offensive possession. Number 1 is you make the shot. Number 2 is you miss a shot, because the other ones are a live ball turnover, which is the worst outcome, or a dead ball turnover, which is the second worst outcome, right? Those are the only 4 ways that an offensive possession is going to end. So if you take a shot and you miss it, that's the second best thing that could have happened. So it's okay. You didn't do the best, but you did the second, and we're going to accept that, right? So it's just a transforming of that. So that was kind of a way to handle rejection, or just think about it differently. Try to get to that no fast.
Yeah, change your perspective.
Yeah.
On it. Okay, that's very interesting. You talked about being an evangelist.
Yeah.
For what you're selling.
Sure.
And I think people would like to embrace that. Like, I'm going to be an evangelist. Is that difficult? And how do you manage that?
So it depends on what you mean by the word. It's like seminary, right? It's like, what does somebody mean by an evangelist? Yes. So just at the very basic of what it means is the bringer of good news. So it's hard to be an evangelist if you don't actually think that what you're doing is good. And there's a lot of people who are selling because it's their job. I'm not saying that I'm not going to sit here and tell somebody that it's a bad idea. Everyone has to make a living. But if you don't believe in your core, what you're doing is good, you can't be an evangelist, because you don't even think you wouldn't even buy it from yourself. So, and that's, again, I'm saying, that's okay. You can still have a job and work with integrity and not be super giddy about everything that you're doing. But I think that's why so few people are evangelists, because you don't actually think that what you're doing is good news. You think you're being a nuisance. I don't want to make this call. Why? Well, you don't think it's good news for the person. And so I think, again, it's just a mentality thing of is this going to be good news? And why would it be good news? If I showed up, so there was an analogy that I heard, when electricity would first come in, and if somebody showed up and they were like, you don't have to use candles anymore. And they would say, repent, which means just turn another direction. That's all it means. Just turn around, go a different direction. That's what repent means. Turn around. The kingdom of electricity is at hand, right? There would be people who are I don't want to change. And that's okay. You still think you're helping them you're bringing good news. And so causing somebody to change is asking them to repent and do something different. Well, if you're not resolved in why they would make that change, if you don't know why they would make the change, it's going to be pretty tough. No. So you gotta be able to kind of stick to, you have to know what you're good newsing, evangelizing.
Yeah.
And really believe it to be an evangelist. Or else you can still be in sales. You can still be in business development. I'm not saying you can't do that. You just can't be an evangelist.
Okay, so we work with lots of companies who obviously utilize packaging. They're shipping stuff every single day. And I don't think anybody thinks of packaging as intensely as you think of packaging. And
that's probably pretty fair.
So did you develop this with Uncle Bob, or did you develop this thought love of packaging because of the interactions you were having with people you were selling, where you were selling packaging?
Oh man, it's actually way less cool. It was, so certainly my Uncle Bob helped me out a lot. I learned a lot of basics about business. I learned a lot of basics about packaging. You know, I definitely owe him a lot of that. Without that call, I don't think I would. I'd probably be a store manager at a Starbucks still or something like that, which sounds awesome. But I wouldn't be here probably.
No, probably.
So what started me on this was actually, I was really broke when I started selling. Like, I don't know if you've ever been like double broke, but like I went on my first, when I got hired by this company called WS Packaging, I flew to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and this was in 2011. So we had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn. The last two were born on high deductible HSA accounts. So I had maxed out my credit card. So I had no credit card at all. And I had negative $100 in my checking account. And so, but I had started this new job and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I've got a new job. Well, I didn't know what an expense report was. So I show up and then I'm like, they asked me for a credit card. I'm like, I don't really have one. And they're like, we'll take a debit card. And I'm like,
Yeah.
like, dear Lord, like anoint this with oil, please. I don't want to be embarrassed. Because I didn't know I had to pay for my hotel. I thought it was all paid for. So I'm sitting there in my hotel room, like freaking out. It was the only time I've ever missed my mortgage payment. I just didn't pay my mortgage the next month because I had no means to do it. And I just remember sitting there thinking like, I have this new job. I'm in sale. I'm selling a product I've never seen before. I'd never seen a label print before. I'd never seen a shrink sleeve manufactured before. And I go to this facility and it's like they're running flexographic printed stuff and I don't even know anything about it. And I'm like, I have to do something differently because I don't have the product knowledge and I don't have the network of people. So what am I going to do? How am I going to... So I could lean on my pastoral background and the fact that I understood social media because I was in college when Facebook came out. So my brain had already developed. But I had kind of grown up with MySpace. Yeah. But, you know, I had MySpace and I had Facebook and I was like, I bet I can leverage social media to very quickly at least get a network and gather knowledge because that was the place. So I got onto LinkedIn. This was like 2011, beginning of 2012. And I just started, that was my strategy. I was like, I'm going to lean on my pastoral background and I'm just going to learn from people. I'm going to ask them a lot of questions. Started to build up a bit of a network on LinkedIn. Still not a lot of people are engaging with things, but I learned very quickly. So I gathered information, I gathered knowledge, and I gathered a network on LinkedIn. And that sort of started to flywheel into a bit more of a passion because the more I got into the industry, the more I realized like it's everywhere. I mean, it impacts every single thing in this room. From the carpet to the 2x4s that built or whatever. I don't know what this room is made of, but whatever.
I think it's metal.
Yeah,
metal.
Whatever it is. Like it all has labels. It all has corrugated boxes. It all has secondary protective packaging to ship from point A to point B. Everything. And so when I started to realize that, I was like, wow, I can keep learning and continually learn and continually learn. Even today on my Packaging Today show, as of this recording, we were learning about French-Canadian laws in Quebec and how they're changing those laws, or what's going to happen with the California's, Senate Bill 54. And there's just a constant stream of learning. And I kind of just fell in love with it over time. So it started because I was very broke and I had 3 kids. Desperation. And you know, it hasn't even ended. There's just so much that I don't know about the packaging industry. Today, I got a text from someone who was like, "Hey, do you know somebody who can do fan folded blister packs?" I'm like, I have no idea.
I don't even.
But I know it's fine. But I'll go find somebody. I'll help them out. So I became passionate about it just through time and curiosity. and have really found it to be. And also, there's no real content around the industry. So once I found that out, that no one was really on social media, that no one had a podcast. I started the podcast almost 8 years ago.
And the podcast is?
The People of Packaging podcast. My friends and I, Corey and Avelio, we started a show called The Packaging Today Show. So every day we talk about packaging on LinkedIn and YouTube. I wrote a kid's book about packaging. I've been to United Nations meetings. I did a TED Talk on packaging. All of it is about packaging.
The TED Talk's really good too.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, enjoyed that.
So yeah, that's just, I just kept trying to go, I hate the blue ocean analogy, but I kept trying to go swim in the blue oceans. You know that analogy?
No.
Like the red oceans is where the sharks have eaten all the food, so there's blood in the water. That's how we think of salespeople. But I didn't want to be there.
I thought that was attorneys. I thought that was lawyers.
Probably lawyers too, also.
So lawyers and the salespeople are in the red.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I wanted to be a salesperson in the blue oceans.
Okay.
So that's how I decided.
Okay. So let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Did it have to be packaging? I mean, like, could you evangelize about something? Like, let's just say Uncle Bob was a plumber.
Yeah.
And you took a job as a plumber. Would you see yourself as the same?
The packaging plumber? No, the plumber, the plumber pastor?
The plumber pastor.
The plumbing pastor?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that every industry, honestly, has such depth to it that people don't even realize.
So, well, that's what I'm curious about is, and I think that there's an interesting maybe lesson in here about if it's the industry or if it's the individual that makes it really interesting. Like, I would think of packaging as useful until I listened to a bunch of your stuff on packaging, and I'm like, wait, there's a lot more depth to this.
Yeah.
And so that's not necessarily because of your love of passion or your passion about packaging, although you developed that over time, but maybe it's just the individual. Like, you became passionate about packaging because you saw something different in it, or you saw something more in it that you could get excited about. Did you do that across industries? So does a person like a sales, like you talk about, if you don't believe in what you're selling, it's going to be tough to be an evangelist.
Sure.
About it. But is that the individual or is that the product? I mean, partially the product, but can you mold yourself into different industries if you have this? Yeah, that's what
100%. Because for me, I mean, obviously I have a whole, like, whatever personal brand means around packaging, but I could drop packaging tomorrow if I wanted to, because to me the passion is really about people like that. It actually goes all the way back to my pastoral days. There's a whole theological construct called like that. Every human being is made in the imago Dei, the image of God, and so that everybody has worth, they have value, they have dignity, and so I get to go and meet people and figure out where that connection is. Like, how can I make their job easier? How can I connect with them on an actual real level? How can I create an experience for them that's going to be either entertaining or educational, right? Like, it's just packaging because there was nobody doing it and I was in that space. And I'm not planning, it's not like a big announcement. I'm not planning on leaving the space at all. It's just like, just like you said, I'm sure that there's electricians or plumbers or whatever industry it is, that there are people out there who they've been doing the same thing for 40 years. And they are such a wealth of knowledge. And it's unfortunate that we might not hear their story. Maybe they'll come on your show.
They should.
I
mean, this is a great place to tell your story.
It would be, yeah.
We've learned a lot about you today.
I know. Far. It's the best part is I just chat GPT'd everything and I memorize it. None of it's true.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you use ChatGPT? I refuse to use it.
I do every day.
Wait, why do you use it every day? What?
Why
do you do that?
I guess I'm not supposed to, because I think that it's going to take over the world and destroy me. That's probably going to happen.
Exactly what's going to happen.
That's probably going to happen.
Yeah,
I just find it super useful. I ask it all sorts of questions. Like something goes wrong with my car. I'm like, hey, can you tell me what's going on? And it's like, yeah, it's the flux capacitor needs a new rotary girder or something. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
Thanks,
ChatGPT.
Dr. Brown.
Yeah. So I use it a lot for all sorts of various tasks. I don't even search Google anymore. I just use ChatGPT.
You remember when searching Google felt like it was cheating? Like when I was growing up, we didn't have Google.
No.
I mean, you had to go figure it out.
You didn't have cars growing up.
Well, not in the early days, but cars came along, and that felt like cheating too.
Yeah. You didn't have to get on the horse.
I was used to my big one huge wheel bicycle.
Oh, you had the unicycle.
The big wheel with a little tiny wheel in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had a handlebar mustache.
Yeah, and my parents thought that was cheating. Yeah, exactly. Isn't it just the next level of cheating? Like, so then you get Google, and it's like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
this is cheating.
Yeah, it's not really.
How do you feel about e-bikes?
That I don't know. I have zero opinions on e-bikes. I've ridden once.
You've ridden an e-bike or a bike?
One time I rode an e-bike. Somebody did take me here, and they were like, "Here's a mountain bike. Like, go mountain biking with me." And I was like, "Okay." And they took me to it's up by Corner Canyon, something over there. It was very steep to me, and they strapped me into the pedals where you're
clipped in,
yeah. You can't get out.
Yeah,
you're
you just twist your foot a little bit.
No, there's a technique to that I did not learn. That was the worst experience of my life. I could not unclip. I was like, this bike owns me. And so people would be coming at me, and I would just fall into the bushes because I couldn't get out of the thing. I kept trying to pull my...
Was it an e-bike?
No,
it was a
regular
old pedal.
Yeah, so I don't mountain bike. It was a bad experience. I think great e-bikes are the best.
Cheating. You don't think that's cheating?
It's efficiency. I don't know. I have no opinion about e-bikes.
Anyway, yeah, I kind of feel like ChatGPT is cheating a little bit.
I mean, it is in school, I guess, but I will tell you, it's help. I can help my kids with their homework. Like calculus, I'm not doing that, but I'll take a picture. I'll be like, hey, can you help me solve this? And it'll solve it. And I'll be like, how do you think you should solve it? And then they'll go through.
You can guide them through. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll give you that. Okay. Let me ask you a few just random questions as we're talking here about if you weren't in the world of packaging and you weren't the packaging pastor, what would you do? What would you rather be doing?
I don't know, because I wouldn't rather be doing anything. Like I don't wake up just like, oh, if only I could do this. But if I didn't get involved in packaging, I would imagine it would be something connected to basketball. I'm a big basketball fan. I love the sport. It's an amazing sport to me. So I'd imagine I'd be some form of like coaching basketball and working in a church capacity in some level, if I had to guess, because those are things that I just do on my own. So I have coached basketball. I've officiated basketball. I actually host the Utah High School Hoops podcast, where I talk about Utah high school basketball on a podcast.
How many podcasts?
Just 3. Don't worry about it. Just fine. I don't have this set up though. So if I had this set up, I'd only do one. Can I borrow this? Can I just come in? Can I just roll in here and switch that out and just invite people to record podcasts?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, sweet.
I think you could probably do that.
Okay. So yeah, that would be my guess, because I already do that.
Something in basketball.
Yeah, and when my wife and I we have plans to stop working like vocationally and probably go move to India is our guess, because I do a lot of nonprofit work in southern India. So that's kind of our like get out of the U.S.
That's your retirement plan?
Go live in the unorganized chaos of southern India.
And what are you going to do there?
Just help people. That's our plan. Just live with people and help them. And
in your retirement years?
Yep. That's the goal.
What kind of help do people need in southern India?
How much more time do we have?
We have a lot of time.
Oh, man.
I mean, I scheduled this until 5, so we have at least
all right
20 minutes.
It's like, geez, what kind of help do? The interesting thing about
they need that much help.
Well, it's not any more than it's not like Americans need help too. I hate when people are just like, oh well, Southern people are stupid, or but there's this idea that like because somebody is poor that they need a different type of help than like, yes, there's economic things, but there's an interesting thing that happens in parts of India. Certainly, India's a massive country, right? Mm-hmm. There's 1 billion people there. But in this particular area of India, it's in Andhra Pradesh is where we go, mm-hmm. Which is a state north of Chennai. And there's a belief that if you are poor, it's because you did something in a previous life.
Oh, yeah.
And so you were reincarnated as a poor person. So there's no real desire in this particular area to help people who maybe need help. Whether it's physically, because it's like you deserved it.
Something you did.
So just be good in this life, be a good poor person, and then maybe you'll get rich like me. Mm-hmm. So it's a totally different way of thinking than what we have here in the U.S., which is like we do have a bit of a desire to help people. Mm-hmm. And so, we run there's a home and a school there for kids with special needs, elderly women. We help kind of get off the street and just help give them some dignity towards the end of their life. Mm-hmm. There's a school and an orphanage there, and so it's just basically a collection of people who have been sort of left behind by their community. And so that's what we would go do. We would just go and live there and help wherever we needed to help, whatever that day is.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, nothing to do with packaging.
Not at all.
No.
Let's get back to the packaging.
Yeah.
More of the shipping side. Those are the packaging things.
Your shipping.
That's good. That's really good. Speaking of shipping, would you rather ship your pants or ship your bed?
I would. Like, do I get them back? Do I just lose all of my pants? Like, I'd have to show up to this pantless? Or is it just like, what would I rather put together a shipping program for? Because it's definitely pants. They're way easier to ship. You can vacuum seal them. You can put them flat in a curbside paper recyclable envelope and ship out pants.
You're saying it's easier to ship your pants than it is to ship your bed.
Yes.
That's what you're saying to me.
1,000%. Now, it depends on the bed, right? If it's those beds that like curl up and the ones that you can like roll up and they get like
a pad? Like a pad that you put on the ground? Like that's your bed?
But then you unroll it and it just like goes...
Oh, like it...
Like you order them on Amazon for like $70 and they show up.
And it shows up in like a corrugated like a box. Or, and then you cut it open and then it expands. You think that's an easier...
that's easier than a regular bed.
You would rather ship that bed than to ship a regular bed.
Yeah, because the impact of the freight, the carbon used to freight a regular bed because of the cubic volume of a regular bed is going to be quite a bit more than a compacted bed. And certainly both of those are more than a pair of pants. Unless you are a very, very large person who has pants the size of a bed. And then I don't know.
Shaquille O'Neal's pants. Could you imagine shipping his pants?
I still think those would be easy. I'm talking about a human who's like 50 feet tall and 5,000 pounds. Maybe that person has bed-sized pants.
Do you think early biblical people were that size?
So there's the Nephilim, which are mentioned in the book of Genesis. They were giants. I don't believe that they were 500 feet tall and 5,000 pounds.
Do you think they wore pants?
Yeah. I think they had some sort of pants. I think they were really old. Listen, I can totally nerd out about this. I went to like some Mayan ruins and we're like getting the tour.
In like what, Chichen Itza or something?
Yeah, it was in Mexico. And I don't think the person was quite prepared for my questions because I was like, why are these stairs so huge? Like, weren't Mayans small people?
Tiny.
And why did they use all of their natural resources to build this giant temple to a huge thing?
Yeah.
To the sun.
Right.
When they were so tiny. And they were like, well, they just worship. I'm like, no, I understand that. But like, don't you think that there was like a huge person here telling them what to do? Like, why else would they size this thing for a big person? It made no sense to me. And they had no answers for my questions. But that's the only thing I could think of was like, there was like big people here telling them and like helping them carry stuff.
Oh, well,
and like worshipped them.
Oh, okay. That I see where you're going there. But the camera, by the way, very logical, thoughtful answer on the shipping your pants or shipping your.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So, in those temples, in those pyramids, there's corridors. Those corridors are tiny, like claustrophobically tiny. No huge person's going to get in there.
No, because
that's for the tiny people.
Because that was for the smaller people, so they could get around there. But like these big giant steps with these huge doorways, like what was the point of that? You could have made them. You could have right sized them to the size of the tiny people.
But the tiny people, those were the temples for the gods. Like they weren't for the tiny people. So wouldn't you want to make it more grandiose by making it larger?
I don't know.
I think that's probably. Did you see the game that they played? They played it for days and days on end, and it ended in the death of one of the teams or something, or the winner was.
I don't know what
executed.
You're talking about. Is this
was the ball? There were this huge field. There were these two, like, they weren't baskets. They were just big holes.
Sounds like
structures.
Sounds like basketball.
It was sort of like basketball, and you had to throw this ball through this hole in the structure, and then the winner is.
I'll look this up. I'm going to look this up on ChatGPT.
Do it.
Yeah.
The victory celebration was like they sacrificed him to the gods. Like that's what you won.
Yeah. I mean, there's worse ways to go down than winning a game and being sacrificed to the gods, I guess.
I guess.
If we're all going to die, then that sounds like how did your brother die? Well, he won the ultimate game and then was sacrificed.
The ultimate championship.
They're like, wow, your brother sounded really cool.
Would you throw the game at that point if you knew you were going to be sacrificed? Would you?
Depends on your eschatology. What do you believe about the afterlife? Because maybe you're just like,
I don't know what you just said.
Eschatology is the study of the afterlife. So, like, what is your belief in the afterlife? Then, if you thought it was going to be super rad and you were going to get a bunch of women, then no chance. You're winning that game, bro. You are definitely. Now I'm genderizing this game as masculine.
It was, yes.
So
from what I understand, it was, yes.
But no, you're definitely not throwing that game.
Okay, one last random question since you brought up eschatology.
Yes.
What happens next?
How much time? The beautiful thing is, to me, if anybody speaks definitively about this, I think that they are fooling themselves, because there's really truly no way to know. Mm-hmm. Because we're not on the other side. So I randomly read a lot of books about hell. I find hell to be a very fascinating topic. Just in my free time, I read about hell, and what various groups think about hell and what various groups think about heaven. I think that it is logical and probabilistic thinking to believe that there's something else, just because every civilization has concocted some sort of belief in the afterlife. I don't think that that's like evolutionary or anything. I just think that there is something inside of us that's like, no, there's something really real. It's why like pragmatic atheism hasn't exactly just like captured everyone's beliefs, is because I think at the end of the day, we're all just like, I really think there's something else after this life. And so I think that there seems to be some sort of heaven and there seems to be some sort of hell where people are either, damned to hell, as a lot of beliefs have it, or there's some sort of like purgatorial cleansing that happens. All I know is that if there is a loving God, that whatever happens after, which I believe in, that whatever happens after this life will be loving, perfectly loving, and perfectly just. And I don't know what that is. I have my own theories about it, but I would never, I don't, if somebody has something to sell you, you instantly should distrust their information, because they're trying to sell you something, right? And if somebody says, I know exactly what's going to happen in the afterlife, I would not trust that data because they're here. Even if they've had a near-death experience, even if they said, like, I crossed the plane, and there's a lot of stories about that.
No.
And then people come back and they say, no, I saw this, or I saw that, or this is what it is. The problem is that every religion has something like that to validate what it is that they say is true. And so I just have no idea what is definitively true. So I land on what is probably true, which is that there is a heaven, there is a hell. I don't believe that finite beings can make infinitely consequential decisions. So I don't think that heaven and hell is based upon our actions necessarily here on earth. I think that it is the work of a gracious and kind and loving God. And that would be in line with my own sort of like evangelical leanings. But this idea that like you have to be a really good person in order to get to heaven, or you have to do A, B, C, D, and E to get to heaven, I think ultimately becomes a way for large organizations to control people, to say like, oh no, you have to do the things that we tell you to do so that you can get to heaven. That to me feels like, and that happens across every religious sect or denomination or background. It's like, really? So finite people do finite things to experience infinite joy or infinite punishment. I'm not exactly sure that that's how the whole thing works on the other side. But
Gotcha.
that's a probabilistic answer to an improbable question.
Well, let's move on to something a little more controversial.
Then heaven and hell?
Why should people care about packaging?
Oh my gosh. This I can speak definitively to. People should care about packaging.
So we work with shippers all day, every day. And I mean, I would say that we view packaging with some marginal
You're agnostic.
objectivity. Like, it's almost like shipping a little bit. If it's working, it's kind of like, well, we have to do it. It's kind of working. I don't want to go through the process of trying to make it really efficient and going through all this. And so I'm guessing people do that with packaging too. How many times? Well, I've seen your videos. You've had this experience. Like, how many times do you receive a package at home and it's a package that's this big for a pack of,
Yeah. And that happens for a very good reason. It just sucks that it happens. So,
what's the very good reason that happens?
Because if you are processing how X amount of orders a day in some of these 3PLs, and you guys have probably been to plenty of 3PLs, or an Amazon facility or whatever it is, and maybe someone's making $18-20 an hour, and they're just sitting there and they got 100 orders they got to get through. I understand. Like, it's the same reason why when I worked at Walgreens, I didn't set up all of the crazy displays that would ship. I would just throw the displays away. Now I know those things are like $40. But at the time, I would just chuck it. I would take the product. I'd put the product on the shelf because we didn't buy the shipper. So nobody knew that I was setting up the shipper because it's too much work. And I'm an hourly employee. So I understand why it happens. Someone is just trying to get something out the door. And they grab a box. They don't care.
Yeah.
And that's
crazy number of orders.
It's so much.
Yeah.
E-commerce has exploded over the last decade, but especially since COVID, it's really, really exploded. So I totally get it. But that's actually why people, I think, should care about packaging, because what ends up happening when that happens over and over and over again is it introduces an insane amount of inefficiencies, a tremendous amount of wasted and lost revenue for the company. There's very real environmental concerns that happen with that. And especially when packaging is shipped and it doesn't protect the product, and there's damage and there's returns. So to me, packaging first and foremost has to protect the product. 100%. That's what it needs to do. It doesn't matter how beautiful it is. It has to protect the product. Next, it has to resonate with the person. So there is a branding component to it. There is an unboxing component to it. Is it easy to open something? Is it difficult? Whatever it is, that's gonna kind of grate against the consumer, or it's going to improve the experience. Number 3 is does it minimize the environmental impact on the planet? So are you doing your part as a company or as a person to buy products that are economically or environmentally less impactful? And number 4, can you make money? Is it profitable? And so everybody who's in business wants to make money. Everybody who's in business wants to do right by the planet. Nobody really wants to have their products shipped back to them in return.
No.
So that's the reason why people should care about packaging, because that's what packaging does for a brand. And consumers need packaging because we can't teleport stuff yet. So everything has to be put into some sort of packaging and shipped.
Yeah. You know what you just transitioned into unknowingly to you?
I don't know.
And to me.
Is it the end of the interview?
Transition.
Just kidding. I'm having a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming.
I am having a blast. You're like, you just transitioned into us teleporting directly to the credits.
You just transitioned into our newest segment of the Know Your Ship podcast.
Oh, okay.
Which is the Ship Talker.
Okay.
You're a packaging ship talker. Like, this is your expertise. You know packaging. Okay, so if I'm shipping something, if I'm a shipper,
yes,
and I decide whatever my product is, and I want it to be appealing to a customer, and I want it to be accessible, and I want it to be like, is that something that I would call you?
Sure.
And I would say, Adam, make this as appealing and as accessible as possible. How can packaging affect a consumer so the consumer enjoys the product and comes back? Can packaging accomplish all of that?
100%. It does every day. I mean, especially not only in a retail perspective, but also in an e-commerce perspective. So from a retail perspective, people make decisions in less than 2 seconds, and you only have one salesperson in a retail shop, right? And that's your packaging. It's sitting there on the shelf. It's communicating your brand values. It's communicating what it is, and it's trying to stand out. You're placed in the middle of all of your competitors. Mm-hmm. And so your packaging is the thing that has to sell at that moment. Now, once they pick it up, there are different things you can do with tactile finishes and things like that to your packaging. Soft touch, which feels like human skin. So that's why people put a lot of soft touch on, because there's an instant amount of trust that's developed between the brand and the person tactily, subconsciously. Putting different varnishes on, using foils, this kind of stuff is because you're just trying to grab someone's attention in less than 2 seconds. So yes, it's going to do that. Now, if it's e-commerce, it's a little bit different because you're not competing at the store shelf, but now you're competing on the home shelf. Mm-hmm. So now somebody has to use your product. They have to recognize the brand because maybe they're going to go buy the rest of your products in the retail location. So a great example of this is a guy named Will. He runs a company called IQ Bar, if you've seen them. Mm-hmm. They have IQ Joe, they have IQ Mix, they have IQ Bar. Every one of their products and the packaging is built differently for different channels, retail or e-commerce or direct-to-consumer, whichever it is. Club store is another one. All of your packaging have to be built differently in those different environments. And the reason it's not just showing up in a white box with black writing on it, is because it answers that question. Can packaging be the thing that's going to drive consumer behavior? It absolutely does. Every moment that we've been doing this interview, somebody is being influenced by packaging. Either it's showing up at their house and it's a good experience, or it's a bad experience, or they're buying it on the retail shelf. One thing that I think that e-commerce people, I don't know if that's people who are going to listen to this, if they're still listening, God bless you. You are the real superhero. Maybe this will get clipped out. Then if that's the case, thank you for listening.
This is the part.
No, I'm saying, but maybe this will just be a clip and they won't realize that we
will be. Yeah, this is definitely going to be a clip.
So
they may not even see any of the other.
They may not even know that we talked about hell and circumcised penises.
But now they do.
Now they do. Now you got to go back and listen to the whole episode. But e-commerce, a lot of e-commerce people miss like one of the simplest things, which is, and it's going to sound really stupid, it's customized shipping tape it's so easy to just put your logo or put your branding, just a brown box or a plain white box with some customized tape is sometimes enough. And it's so easy to do. And it's shocking to me how many people don't do paper tape or clear printed tape, because it's a simple way to create some brand awareness and just use basic stock shipping boxes. Because to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, I think the unboxing experience is way overhyped. I think too many brands lean into it, and there's not enough data to show whether or not it, like the idea that like we have to create this like Apple packaging experience. Like, you know what some people just want? They just want their stuff to show up on time and not damaged. That's really what they want.
Here's what I really appreciate. Like, I don't want it to be complex.
No.
I mean, I will say this against Apple products. Like, the boxes seem very high quality.
Yes.
But then it's like you have to pull this tab of tape thing, and if you don't get it exactly right, sometimes it doesn't go. And then you have to pull the other one, and then you open it up. And if you have like the cables, have you ever tried to get the cables out of those little paper tab things? It's maddening.
It's frustrating. And I think that's where the overthinking of the experience is there. It's like 99% of the products just need some pretty basic packaging that is going to not be disruptive to because someone has bought your product online. They did not buy it because of the packaging. They bought it because they needed the thing, right?
Correct.
So make sure the thing shows up and the experience needs to be minimal. So I'll give you a great example. So Nike switched their boxes. So a shoe box is normally it's a regular slotted container, which has it's your regular shipping box, right? You have tape on the top, you have tape on the bottom, you open it up. Well, Nike switched it up and they made a box that's an auto bottom box with so it just pops open and it collapses really easily. And they have a little tear notch. So you just tear this notch, this perforated notch, and your box opens up. I don't have to use any scissors. I don't have to use a knife. I can get the shoes out. But on the inside of it, they have a little strip of adhesive. If you need to return your box, your shoes, you just put them back in, you tear that off, and you put it back down. They made the customer experience so simple. Now, if I'm going to recycle my box with Nike, I just collapse it. I don't need to cut things. I don't need it. I just collapse it and I put it in my recycle bin. So it's like these simple little design elements that I think brands can do that are going to create a better experience for like, how do I get rid of my trash?
Well, that is part of it. But for me, I would like to have, so when I receive a product, obviously I know what I'm ordering online. I think the quality of the box is important. Like that to me, when I receive it, especially, I don't want to get a damaged or something that looks like flimsy. It feels like that's a reflection of the product.
Sure.
And then I lose trust in the product. So I need kind of this enhanced experience receiving the product in the mail. And maybe a little something, maybe it's tape, maybe it's just a little something, a little extra detail that, I don't know, personalizes it or makes it
handwritten notes are great.
The notes, I saw you've done things like that. You have one with New Balance and their box cover is fascinating.
Yeah, the printing was really cool.
Right.
And you can do that now, like digital printed corrugated boxes are very common these days. Like you can do some really rad stuff for pretty inexpensively.
Is there any study that demonstrates an enhanced experience of receiving your package, opening it, receiving the product that you ordered makes it more likely that you'll order again? The
one that I know of is 19 Crimes, which is a wine company. And they did the first augmented reality label. So you could download an app and the label would talk to you and tell the story of the criminal that was on the label. And their sales went up, I don't know, it was a lot. It was like more than the GDP of Poland.
That's super cool.
It was a lot.
Like what if you,
I'm just making up numbers about Polish people. Sorry, that's a callback to the beginning.
It's not it's not really making fun because it's your roots, it's your history.
It's apparently my history. But yeah, I mean, so there are studies that are about that. I've not seen, there's a couple of things that I think packaging people spend too much time thinking about. Like I have never seen a study that says like if the Coca-Cola red is like a 6 delta color tolerance from what Coke says is their red, that it impacts sales negatively or positively. There's never been a study done that shows that it's negative.
If the reds are different?
If the red is a slightly different shade than the previous run. But we spend a lot of time and a lot of money, and there's a lot of tools about like how do you nail the Ford blue or the Coke red or whatever the iconic color is. And we still don't have any studies that say that that actually matters to a consumer.
I would say subjectively, if I received a product from that has an iconic color associated with it, like what I would say is Coke red or Ford blue, if I received a product from one of those companies and the color was off, I would think that I received a fake product.
I hate to tell you this, but your brain is not that nuanced. It doesn't know it, right? So color is just it's a very interesting thing. Like printing and laying down ink onto materials is actually a pretty complex process. And so your brain is not really able to tell much of a difference between the different shades like I just described. Now, if it's pink and it's red, you'd be like, okay, something's off. But if it's red and then a slightly different shade of red, you'll have no idea. You've no idea.
I want to believe you. I really do.
My friend, if you're in Chicago, go visit Fred Richards, who has the Chicago Branding Museum. It's right on Michigan Avenue. He has the largest collection of packaging maybe in the world. And it's on display in a museum. And he has Coke. He has Coke where it's like still filled and then one of the ingredients is cocaine.
Yeah. And he has one of the originals.
Yes. And you can see the difference between Coke Red that has happened over the years. And you'd be like, okay, I get what you're saying. So I think we spend a little bit too much time on that. I think that we could make some improvements with just opening up the tolerance for printing companies. But I also work with a lot of printing companies. So I'm an advocate. I'm an evangelist for the printing company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Before I let you go, I'm going to give you one shot here.
Okay.
To tell people why packaging matters and why that should be a priority when you're creating and when you're shipping your products.
So what happens and I'll speak to like people who own brands. What happens oftentimes is packaging people get brought in at the tail end. And normally a supply chain is pretty complex. So you've got your brand owner, they have their ideas. Maybe they've designed the packaging, but they haven't talked to their contract manufacturer who has their own packaging vendors. And, they have their own form factors that work well on their machines. It's just a good idea to bring in what becomes the first point of interaction usually between your brand. The physical point of interaction between your product and the first consumer is almost always the packaging. There's a few exceptions, or, fruit, for example. It's like, that's probably not. But if we're talking about making an actual product, you're going to have to put it in some sort of packaging. And so to punt that down to like the fourth level of importance, I think is a mistake. And especially now that brands are being taxed on the type of packaging they use. It's called extended producer responsibility. I talk about this all the time. Very few people are aware of it, but it is going to massively change the importance of packaging because now it's it's like not knowing your finances. It's like not knowing your revenue. Not knowing your packaging materials is going to cost brands a ton of money. And there's laws that have been passed already in 7 different states. And it's going to get bad really quick. And especially if you want to become an international company and you got to deal with the laws in Europe and you got to do all of this stuff is happening in very real time. And then you throw on top of it the complexity of something like tariffs, which packaging is all tariffed, even down to a label. Most label materials are not manufactured in the United States. So even like the tiniest little label that goes on the actual raw material, most of them are printed here, but the actual components of the raw material come from overseas. And so the impact of like these little tiny components is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So the point of it is, if you're not involving packaging professionals at the beginning of your product ideation and you're not thinking of your packaging as part of your product experience, you're probably going to either one, overpay, or two, you're going to have a lot of inefficiencies in your manufacturing. And those are both bad, especially for newer companies or newer brands that are coming to market.
And it's really easy to take care of that, to be thoughtful about that up front.
Yeah, you just involve
at the
people.
end. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Adam, this has been fascinating.
All right.
Way above my expectations.
I always try to
Just so you know.
under promise and over deliver. Is that what it is?
It's something.
Yeah.
It's something like that. I mean, we covered so much material here. I don't even know where to begin.
It's your fault. You asked the questions.
Well, you gave really interesting answers. So, look, where I hope you'll come back. I hope you'll come back and talk to us again.
I live like 7 minutes from where we're sitting right now. So we'll just have know your ship segments, and why don't we bring someone in? You should bring in somebody who works at a brand, and the three of us could have a conversation about branding and packaging.
That sounds like why wouldn't we do that?
We should totally do that.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. Tomorrow? This is super fun.
I think that's fantastic. You've been great.
Thank you.
Super interesting, super fascinating. I love your life story. It's great. I love your thoughts about sales and kind of this grit, evangelism. I just think it was really insightful. And,
Thanks.
and the
fun.
packaging stuff. Where can people find you?
I'm on the internet. Linked
Like all of it?
all of the internet.
The whole-
Yeah, so
whole internet.
if you Google search my name, there's also like a Scottish rugby player with the same name, but you'll probably find me.
I looked him up. I was really excited.
You thought it was me?
Yeah.
I thought I doubled as a Scottish rugby player. No, so I'm on LinkedIn every day. I post content on there every day. I've been doing that for almost 12 years. People of Packaging podcast is fun. The Packaging Today show is the best piece of content that I think we make in our industry. It's awesome. We have live discussions every day, 8:30 Mountain Standard Time. We'll have you on sometime. You can talk about eHub.
Adam Peek. P-E-E-K.
Yep.
Come back and see us again.
All right. Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Know Your Ship podcast presented by eHub. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.